Hi, welcome to JJ's Productions. We're back with another Stoke City vlogcast. With me as always is Jan. How are you doing?
Hi son. Hi folks, hope you're all okay. Right, I'm just going to say one thing. 8 minutes. What the heck was going on? I mean, come on. You can't just stamp on somebody and think you can get away with it. You know, what was going through his daft head?
Well, I've got to give credit to the players. You know, the 10 on the pitch, they managed to last it out until Grant Hall got sent off. And the thing is, by that point, I think both sides settled for a 0-0. So, you know, they did really well. I'm not taking anything away from them. I have got a few flash points I want to just bring up, or a few points of note. But overall, I'm very happy with the draw.
Yeah, I was glad that they kept a clean sheet after being with 10 men after 8 minutes. You know, I think that they must have played really, you know, the hearts out really for keep to that.
By all accounts, because we were sort of busy again yesterday, so only some bobs, but by all accounts, Jack had a good game. He kept us in it, so thanks once again to Jack there. You know, I do have my criticisms of him, but it's more generally to do with decision making in terms of distribution. But when it comes to his shot stopping, when someone said the other week that maybe a Premier League club was going to bid £15 million for him, I actually said he's worth 15 million just for his shot stopping, let alone all the other stuff he can work on.
They're having a giraffe 15 million.
Exactly. So even if he has depreciated in value a little bit in the Championship, he's still worth more than that. So once again, thanks to Jack. I'm going to say he did really good there. But
Can I just one of my little grievances? Oh, Mama Joof. Oh my word. He comes on and he misses a sitter. Surprise, surprise, folks.
I wouldn't mind, but that is literally the one chance he had, isn't it?
I couldn't believe it.
I'm not too harsh on him for it, but equally it's like, yeah, you could have had a chance to win some naysayers over. I'm not going to point at anyone here, but, you know, if he'd have scored the goal, you know, it would have been a completely different story, but instead it's, Juve misses a chance again. And
You know what I feel as if it's like? You know when you've got to have confidence somewhere and they say, well, look at a member of the audience and just think that they're naked. I said to myself, I'm thinking, has he got that in his head? And as he just goes to shoot, he sees a girl naked in his eye. Is that what it is? Because there's something wrong with him that he can't score from that. Oh, God, I rest my case with him.
It's interesting. I mean, the way I see it is, he was a joint top scorer with John Walters several years back. I'm not saying he can ever reach them heights again, but there is an ability to score goals in him. So whatever has happened in that time, I do not know, because, you know, you can't really go from that height to this low without something. I mean, in fairness, when I'm saying that, I do remember he's had personal tragedies with his family, so, you know, I can have sympathy there, and, you know, it might have played a part, but equally, yeah.
They're professional people, and you've got some footballers who've lost little children and babies and so on.
Yeah.
And, you know, they've come back and they've played for who they've lost.
Well, Ariata comes to mind there. I remember he lost his... I can't remember if she'd just been born or if she was, like, premature or something, but I do remember he had a personal tragedy like that. And, yeah, I completely agree with what you're saying. You know, some people do actually come back and really... They sort of used as a motivation to do well, essentially, and maybe Mom's just not built that way. You know, that, you know, I don't mean that nastily either, but everyone's different, and maybe Mom's reaction is maybe slightly more regressive than aggressive, for argument's sake, you know.
Well, I tell you what, if he doesn't go for next season, I'll go down in my car and I'll kidnap him. And I'll dump him somewhere, because I don't want him playing again.
Well, this is the thing. I think Nathan Jones sort of knows who he wants and who he doesn't want, and one of those players seems to be Ryan Woods. He doesn't seem to be anywhere near the team right now.
No, I don't know why.
It's annoying me, this Williams sub, because it's 2 times in the past 3 games he's done it, and I'm thinking, what has... okay, I'm going to actually counter this, right? Because there is a logic to it. That Williams is slightly taller than Woods, and what he wants to do is bring more height onto the pitch to counter taller teams at set pieces. So let's just get that out there. I'm not being completely ignorant of the possible reasons for bringing him on. But equally, if you're a holding midfielder and you see a holding midfielder come off injured, surely you must think, I'm coming on. So Woods must be saying, am I getting penalised here for not being as tall as that fella?
I don't know, Josh. But I just couldn't get my head around it. You know, I mean, I've said this morning, he's a defender playing in midfield, and he'll act as a striker as well sometimes.
Well, to be honest, I think that's half of what the game plan was when he came on. Basically, come on in midfield, do your defensive duty when you're defending, and if you have a set piece, go forward and try and score.
Yeah.
You know, and I know that could be the argument for any sub, but equally, I think that was pretty much all he could have been told, because how do you train someone who's played central defence all of their career to suddenly go into midfield? It's surely you have to just basically tell them, don't worry about it.
I think the partnership between Shawcross and Bart is getting along quite nicely.
Yeah, I am pleasantly surprised there. I'm not saying I didn't think it could happen, but equally I was concerned that Ryan might take a little longer, so yeah, I'm quite pleased there.
Yeah, I mean, I thought it would work. You know, it reminds me of the youth Shawcross.
Yeah, I think a lot of people have noted that already, which is good to see, because it means we've got the backbone of the defence tidied up a little.
Yeah. Right, I'll get on with the stats, and I'm going to Derby and Stoke, I haven't done Stoke for ages. Right, Derby, they've won 15, they've drawn 10, and they've lost 11. They're currently in 6th. Stoke are 16th. The top scorers are Harry Wilson with 10, Marriott with 7, and Lawrence with 5. Stoke, they've won 10, drawn 15, and lost 11. Our top scorers are Afobe 8, Ince 6, and Allen 6. Now, I don't think the stats are that bad, or they're not too different from Derby's, really.
I mean, there's quite a gap between, say, ourselves and when we've looked at West Brom recently. I mean, Gale and Rodriguez on their own were on about 16, so, you know, goal scoring wise, I feel like Afobe could have been higher, you know, if you're at least judging it on expectation versus reality, which I think the expectation was that at least he'd be on par with them two. So yeah, I think in that sense he has been a bit of a letdown, but he has still contributed a bit more than I think some people make out. You know, you hear comments at the match saying, oh, he's a donkey phobia or whatever, but, you know, he hasn't been that bad. I think it's just a case that he could have done more.
I think the more they play him, the better he'll be. And if he could go in a partnership with Vokes, I think that will be a good thing to see.
I think it would work well in the sense that it could be a little and large. I'm not necessarily saying like Defoe and Crouch, but more like Vokes is the burly target man and Phobe's more of the one running behind the lines. So it could work well.
I mean, what I always think is you need a taller one for knock 'em in on the head, and obviously,
a little one to pick up the scraps.
Yeah, a phobia isn't a little boy by any stretch.
Yeah.
But, you know, him get him in with his feet.
My view is he plays like a little one.
Yeah.
You know, I know that is strange, but when I first saw him in that Leeds game, I thought, oh, he's a big lad, he'll win all these headers. And as the weeks went on, I noticed he just wasn't suited to the long ball game. No. So I think that is just the case. You don't play long to him, you sort of play into his feet. And I wouldn't actually keep it on his feet either. You don't want him to be a link man, you know, like... I'm trying to think of a classic link man now. Like, say, Francesco Totti. You know, you don't want someone who's sort of between the lines. You want someone who's on the line, waiting to go past the last man in defence. So, yeah, I think the two of them could form a good partnership, but it's going to be interesting what happens in the short term whilst we're just trying to stay away from trouble.
I mean, I keep saying to Josh, and this is my take on a football match, really, that the goalkeepers if you've got a goalkeeper who's 6'5", 6'8", or whatever, but the high 6-footers, they are going to have more problems, aren't they, getting down?
Yeah.
So why don't they do this? And and when there's a tall goalkeeper, go for the feet.
Yeah.
When it's a smaller one, go for the head.
Nothing irritates me more, like against Forest, for instance, when they've got I think he's 6'8", Pantilimon, he might be a little taller, and you've got a goalkeeper that size, and you send long balls, lofted balls into the box, because you think, even if he's not a confident goalie for, jumping and claiming, he's still got the height advantage to beat a header.
Yeah.
So surely your better approach is to play balls across the box, down on the ground, and try and, even if you lose the ball and lose possession, surely that's better than just giving it straight to the goalie.
Well, I think so, and I've said it since we were in the Prem, and was it called him who played for Arsenal?
Oh, I don't know. Courtois, you're talking about Chelsea, yeah.
Chelsea, that's it. I always thought that they ought to put the lower balls into him, and they never did.
I've got another one from Premier League era that really annoyed me. It was during the Tony Pulis era, this one, and we'd just signed Crouch, and we came up against Fulham. And I remember thinking to myself that Fulham had got Breda Hangeland in defence, and I can't remember who his partner was at the time, but he was a man mountain as well, combined height of about 6'5", 6'6". And you're thinking to yourself, why have we started Crouch today over, say, Jones, who's a little bit more nimble at the time, or even Fuller, I think we got sort of ready to come back, or Walters, and you're just looking at it and you're going, why have we played him again? In the sense of, it's nothing against Crouch, even then, it was just, he's got to have a bloody good ball to win a header against all of them. Yeah. It irritated me, and,
it's one of my pet hates, you know that.
Yeah.
I watch a match and I'm cursing when I see him do it.
Yeah, I know sometimes there might not be a better choice, but if that's the case, pass it back. That is the time to pass back, rather than, when you're sort of thinking, I can't really pass forward here, I'll pass back. It's that, for me, there's sometimes when players do that and it's chicken, whereas in instances like we just described, it's more a case of, okay, now's the time to recycle. We've got the ball still. Let's make sure we don't waste it. Let's pass it around.
Can I just say, though, that I'm not saying that a tall goalkeeper can't get down.
Oh, yeah, of course.
I'm not saying that at all.
It's essentially challenging his weaknesses.
Yeah, that's it.
Because I remember the shortest goalkeeper in the Premier League, Marcus Heinemann, or at least he was. I don't know if someone did beat him. But I remember I always thought to him, he's the sort of goal you need to take shots from outside the box at, put balls into the box, basically test his weaknesses, which would be anything that involves making him jump higher or stretch further. And I don't know if, he did struggle with that. I mean, personally, I thought Heinemann was a good goalkeeper. But if that was me personally, that's what I'd have been encouraging the team to do.
Yeah. But going on, still staying on that a little bit, I think this is where Stoke have got to work on set pieces.
Yeah, I mean, I think we've been getting closer under Jones than we were Rowett. I mean, under Rowett, I just didn't back a score a set piece for love nor money. Whereas I think since Bart came in, especially, we've looked a bit more threatening. I don't think it's necessarily that we've changed much. I think it's just that he's more willing to throw his body on a ball.
Yeah.
Whenever you hear a set play's being taken, you think to yourself, Bart's going for it.
Yeah.
And I think that's just the situation. I'm not saying the others don't, but I think maybe Bart looks like he's got a better read of the ball as it comes in.
Yeah.
I don't know.
But that's my take on it anyway, and please comment if you want to disagree with me. I don't mind. It's
got to be said, we completely digressed because we were talking about the stats and we were about to go on to Derby, but I mean, we didn't even say, sort of congratulations to QPR for getting the draw.
Yeah.
So it's been quite a digression so far, but as far as Derby goes, just moving back on topic, I actually think that they've done okay. I know that might sound strange considering some of their recent results, but I think getting Lampard in was always going to be a tough ask for them, in the sense of, even if, like they did at the start of the season, they had good results, and there was quite a few in the fan base here saying, why didn't we go for Lampard? And you think, but they're going to have a slip up. And to be honest, it came at the usual time. You know, they always have a slip up after January, so it came pretty much on schedule. But what I think they've got to keep in mind is he's a young manager who could get past that. If anything, I think he's done the right thing bringing young players in. I mean, you're looking at them stats, and Harry Wilson, number one, that does not surprise me. The number of free kicks he scored alone is impressive.
Yeah.
But, you know, he's just been contributing while off the bench a lot. So you think that's good to see for, you know, because I love seeing young players, even if they're not English. But, you know, then you've got the likes of Mason Mount doing well on the team. He's not as high on the goal scoring section as I thought he'd be. But, you know, he's still done well. You know.
Yeah, because Lawrence is up there as well. Okay,
yeah,
so
he's a young
only
lad.
on 5, but he's young.
He's still chipping in. I mean, the other one was Marriott, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And they signed him from Peterborough. He's quite young as well. So, again, I'm not by any stretch criticising Derby, because I think they've done quite well with some of the changes, because... Like I say, managerial's one, but they've also had a style of play change, because, you know, we've seen what Rowett plays like, so we know what they were sort of geared like last season.
Yeah.
So, you know, they've had a good shift in mentality as well, because I think if you've got older players like Rowett would have had, like the Tom Huddlestons, the Curtis Davises, there would be maybe a more solid feel to the team, whereas I think Lampard's allowed them to be a bit more fluid. And the way I see it is, if they can just keep in the playoffs, that should be a successful season to them, which is where it irritates me about Darren Moore, because I think to myself, you know, that yes, they're in, you know, just outside the top 2, but how is that not successful?
It's disgusting.
I mean, I know the playoffs can be a lottery draw, right? I know that the playoffs isn't a promotion, but you're better being in them than not.
Yeah.
If you asked any Stoke supporter, would you have settled for being in the playoffs this season? No one would have said no.
No.
So I don't even think the West Brom fans are upset, you know, where they were. Maybe they'd have wanted to be higher, but if you'd said to them at the start of the season, you'll be in the playoffs at least, I think they'd have taken it. If you had got higher ambitions, West Brom fans, let me know, because I'm surprised.
Yeah.
But, you know, it's like, I don't know what the board were thinking there. And, you know, it's like this with Lampard. I can't help but think they are going to give him time, aren't they? You know, they aren't going to sack him because he's not in the playoffs. Or, you know, he's been dipping in and out, should I say.
I'm expecting Lampard to have something to do with the Chelsea position.
I didn't particularly like the link when I saw that, and I'm sure the Derby fans didn't, but for me, it would have been the wrong time anyway, because he hasn't had success at Derby. It's not like he's gotten promoted or he's even gotten top of the league. You know, it's all sort of there, but nowhere near.
Yeah.
You know, and
they're just meandering, really, aren't they? The way, you know, in different, you know, up the league, and
they're sort of there, but they aren't there. You know, I think Bristol City are pushing them hard. That's got to be said, and there might be one or two more sort of closing in. But I feel like Derby are in pole position just because they've got the experience of being in the playoffs. But what concerns me just watching on is Lampard hasn't.
Yeah.
And I know that people might say, as a player, he won this, but it is different when you're in the hot seat.
Yeah.
And I'm not, even though it's Derby, I'm not exactly willing against them doing well, because, you know, I like young English managers. You know, I think I'd rather see Lampard doing well than, say, Slaviša Jokanovic.
Yeah.
But equally, it's a case of, I think it'd be better if he actually had a bit of failure as well, just because I think when you hear the stories of the great managers, they all had a failure somewhere.
Yeah.
I mean, okay, I might be going over the top a little bit here, but think about Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. I'm not putting him in the great managers list, but he had his failure at Cardiff. He's gone back to Mould, learned his trade, and now he's gone to United and gone on an incredible run. You know, one loss, one draw, I think it is. So you're looking at it, you're thinking, okay, it's different situations, but sometimes a failure isn't a bad thing. It just lets you learn what you've done wrong.
Yeah.
And I think if Lampard did get the Chelsea job at the end of the season or next season or whenever, it might just be a little too early for him.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think Fat Frank's done too bad at Derby, saying it's his first season.
Oh, no, and it's certainly not a criticism of him. I mean, if anything, I really admire, if I haven't made it clear, I really admire what he's done with bringing youth through in terms of players on loan and actually giving a few of the younger players in his squad a chance. I mean, I was looking at the fact that he's given I think his name's Roos, Roos. I don't know if I said it right. The young goalie a chance. He was on loan at Port Vale last season. And I think giving him a chance over Scott Carson, or at least while Scott Carson's been injured, you think, well, good on you. You aren't just sort of saying, right, we'll go and get an emergency loan or some weird answer. He's basically turned to youth.
Now, this is what I can't understand about Nathan Jones. Why doesn't he bring one of our young ones in? I mean, you said
Sorensen.
Why doesn't he bring him in instead of putting Williams in midfield?
Well, it's not necessarily that for me, but Fletcher. For me, especially how this season's gone, I'm looking at that bench and I'm thinking, we've got Federici, no big problems over that. Bauer, okay, he's a good backup currently to Edwards. Then I'm seeing Williams on the bench and I'm thinking, why don't we put the young lad Wara on the bench, or even Nathan Collins? Basically one of the two young centre-halves who are doing well. Even if it's just to basically say, right, you're not going to play, the two centre-halves are doing okay, but we're going to put you on there just to see, so you can see what a championship match is like.
Yeah.
Similarly, for Sorensen, he's had a bit of game time, I think, in the championship already, but still, just give him a little bit of exposure. Verlinden, so many young players who could go on the bench instead of Juve, for instance.
Yeah.
And you're thinking, if Woods isn't going to play, give one of the youngsters a spot.
Definitely.
Even if they aren't there, even if they aren't ready yet, put them on the bench. If there's an injury, you've got to give them a chance. And worst happens, they aren't ready.
Yeah, I mean, I don't even think it's just Stoke supporters who must be thinking this. When it's on the Football League show and they think, Williams on in midfield.
Yeah, it's just bonkers. I mean, we were listening to the radio and that's all they were saying, I'm scratching my head over that one. And I think that's all I'm looking for. I want to see logical decisions from the bench, because otherwise I'm asking the question, what are we doing?
We're going to wrap up. That's what we're going to do.
Yeah. So it's prediction time. What are you going for away at Derby County? Got you thinking here, haven't I?
Stoke 2, Derby 1.
I think I'm going to go for 1-1. Just in the sense that I believe that our draw run will continue. We've got one draw here. We've had draws in previous games, so I am going to go for 1-1.
Right. Well, I'll stick with 2-1 to Stoke.
Okie doke. But yeah, thank you very much for listening, everyone. If you've enjoyed this episode, please leave the like on YouTube or retweet it on Twitter. If you haven't already, subscribe to the channel for more Stoke City Vlogcast episodes, and there will be another one on Thursday after the Derby County game. I have to think when the game was. Thank you very much, everyone. Hope to see you in the next video. Bye.
Okay. Bye, folks. Have a good week.